Have you ever told a small lie? Just a simple one. Something you thought would disappear with time. Something that felt harmless in the moment, but deep inside, a quiet voice asked you, what if this comes back one day? What if one small lie doesn't stay small? What if it grows slowly, silently, until one day it takes everything from you? This is a story about a man who believed he was doing the right thing, a man who thought one lie could protect his family, a man who didn't realize that the truth does not forget. His name was Daniel Carter, and for most of his life, he was a good man. Daniel was not rich. He did not live in a big house. He did not drive an expensive car, but he had something many people dream of: a quiet, peaceful family. Every morning, he woke up before the sun. He made coffee in the small kitchen. He stood by the window, watching the sky slowly turn from dark blue to soft orange. That was his favorite moment of the day, because it was calm, because nothing had gone wrong yet. His wife, Emily, would wake up soon after. She always smiled when she saw him. Not a big smile, but a warm one, the kind that made you feel safe. They had one son. His name was Lucas. Lucas was 8 years old. He loved drawing. He loved asking questions. And most of all, he loved his father. "Dad, why do people lie?" Lucas once asked. Daniel laughed softly. "Well, sometimes people lie because they are afraid." "Afraid of what?" "Afraid of losing something." Lucas thought for a moment. Then he said, "But if you lie, don't you lose something anyway?" Daniel didn't answer right away. He just smiled and said, "You're too young to understand." But maybe Lucas understood more than Daniel did. Daniel worked at a small construction company. He wasn't the boss. He wasn't even a manager. He was just a supervisor. But people trusted him because he was honest, because he worked hard, because he never caused trouble. For 10 years, Daniel did the same job, same office, same people, same routine, until one day, something changed. It started with a phone call. Daniel was sitting at his desk. The afternoon was quiet, too quiet. Most workers had already gone home. The office felt empty. Then his phone rang. "Hello, Daniel, we have a problem." It was his boss, Mr. Harris. "There's been an inspection." Daniel sat up straight. "Inspection? Today?" "Yes. And there are missing documents." Daniel frowned. "What documents?" "Safety reports for the Riverside Project." Daniel's heart skipped a beat. The Riverside Project. He remembered it clearly. It was a difficult job, tight deadlines, pressure from the client, long nights, too many risks. I I thought everything was submitted," Daniel said slowly. "Well, it wasn't," Mr. Harris replied. "And now we're in trouble." Silence filled the room. "Daniel, did you check those reports yourself?" This was the moment, a very small moment, only a few seconds. But it would change everything. Daniel knew the truth. He had not checked them carefully. He had trusted someone else. He had been tired. He had rushed. If he said the truth, he might lose his job. He might disappoint his boss. He might bring trouble to his team. If he lied, maybe things would be okay. Maybe they would find the documents later. Maybe no one would notice. Just one small lie. Daniel took a breath. "Yes," he said. "I checked everything." Another silence. "Are you sure?" Mr. Harris asked. Daniel looked at his reflection in the dark computer screen. For a moment, he didn't recognize himself. "Yes," he said again. "I'm sure." That was the lie. Small, simple, quiet. But it did not disappear. That night, Daniel came home late. Emily was waiting at the table. Dinner was already cold. "You're late?" she said gently. "Work," Daniel replied. "Something wrong?" He shook his head. "No, just tired." Lucas ran toward him. "Dad, look what I drew." Daniel forced a smile. "That's great." "Aw, buddy." But he didn't really look. His mind was somewhere else, at the office, at the phone call, at that one sentence he said, "I checked everything." He sat down at the table, but he didn't eat much. Emily noticed. "You didn't answer me," she said softly. "Is something wrong?" Daniel looked at her. He wanted to tell her. He wanted to say, "I made a mistake. I lied. I'm scared." But he didn't. "No," he said. "Everything is fine." Another lie. Days passed, then weeks. At first, nothing happened. Daniel began to relax. Maybe it was okay. Maybe the problem was solved. Maybe his lie had worked. But deep inside, something felt wrong. He couldn't sleep well. He woke up in the middle of the night. His mind was always busy, always thinking. What if they find out? What if someone checks again? What if... But every morning, he put on his jacket. He drank his coffee. He went to work, and he acted like everything was normal. Because that's what people do. When they are afraid, they pretend. Then one morning, everything changed again. There was another meeting. This time, it was not just Mr. Harris. There were other people. Serious people. People Daniel had never seen before. They asked many questions about the project, about the reports, about the safety checks. Daniel answered carefully, slowly, trying not to make mistakes. But the questions became sharper, more direct. Who was responsible for the final review? Daniel felt his throat tighten. "I was," he said. Did you personally confirm all documents were complete?" The room became very quiet. Daniel could hear his own heartbeat. This was the moment again. Another chance, another choice. Tell the truth, or continue the lie. He thought about Emily. He thought about Lucas. He thought about losing everything. And so, he said it again. The room felt smaller than before. The air was heavy, too heavy to breathe. Daniel sat there, frozen. His hands were on the table, but he could not feel them. "We have evidence that the reports were never completed." The sentence repeated in his mind, again and again and again. He tried to think, tried to remember something, anything that could save him. I I think there's been a misunderstanding," he said. His voice sounded strange, not like his own. The man across the table didn't react. He simply looked at Daniel. Calm, cold, certain. "Mr. Carter," he said, "this is your signature, correct?" He pushed a document forward. Daniel looked down. His name was there, clear, undeniable. "Yes," he whispered, "and this indicates that all safety reports were reviewed and approved." Daniel swallowed. "Yes." Another document, "and this shows that the reports were never submitted." Silence. Daniel's chest felt tight. His heart was beating too fast. I didn't know," he said quickly. "I thought everything was done. I trusted my team." "Did you check them?" The question cut through his words. Daniel stopped. He knew this moment. He had been here before. A simple question, a simple answer. But now, there was nowhere to hide. His voice broke. "I was busy," he said. "I had too many things to do. I believed everything was okay." "That's not what you said before." Daniel looked up. The man's eyes were sharp. "You said you checked everything." The truth was standing in the room now, no longer quiet, no longer small. Daniel felt something inside him collapse. "I made a mistake." The words were soft, almost invisible, but they were real. For the first time, he stopped lying, but it was too late. The meeting ended quickly after that. No one shouted, no one got angry. That made it worse, because everything was already decided. Mr. Carter, Mr. Harris said quietly, we'll need you to step away from your position, effective immediately. Daniel nodded slowly. He didn't argue, he didn't fight, because deep inside, he knew this was only the beginning. When he walked out of the building, the sky was gray. It felt like the world had changed, but everything looked the same. Cars passed by. People walked on the sidewalk. Someone was laughing nearby. Life continued, but not for Daniel, not in the same way. He sat in his car for a long time. His hands rested on the steering wheel, but he didn't start the engine. I made a mistake. The words echoed in his mind. A mistake. Was it really just a mistake? Or was it something else? A choice, a decision, a lie? He closed his eyes, and suddenly, he heard Lucas's voice. Dad, why do people lie? Daniel opened his eyes quickly. The memory hit him harder than anything in that meeting. Because they are afraid. That's what he had said. Afraid of losing something. Daniel looked down at his hands, and for the first time, he understood. He was not afraid of losing something. He was afraid of the truth. That night, he didn't want to go home, but he had nowhere else to go. Emily opened the door. She smiled, but the smile faded when she saw his face. Daniel? He couldn't speak. Daniel, what happened? Lucas was in the living room, watching TV, laughing. The sound felt distant. I lost my job, Daniel said. The words fell into the room like something heavy. Emily didn't move. Lost? Your job? Daniel nodded. Why? He looked at her. This was another moment, another choice. Tell the truth, or hide again. His heart was tired, too tired to lie. There was a problem at work, he said slowly, with some documents. Emily waited. And? Daniel took a deep breath. I said I checked them, but I didn't. Silence. I lied. Emily stared at him, not angry, not shouting, just still. How serious is it? She asked quietly. Daniel looked away. Very serious. Another silence. Lucas's laughter continued in the background. It felt wrong. Everything felt wrong. Daniel, Emily said, are you saying this is your fault? He didn't answer immediately because saying it out loud made it real. Yes. Emily closed her eyes. For a moment, she looked like she might fall, but she didn't. She took a slow breath. What happens now? Daniel shook his head. I don't know. That was the truth, and it scared him more than anything. Days passed. The company started an investigation. There were emails, documents, records. Everything was being reviewed. Daniel was called in again, and again, and again. Each time, he told the truth, but each truth felt like another loss. Another step down, another door closing. At home. Things changed too, not suddenly, not loudly, but slowly. Emily spoke less. She smiled less. She watched him, differently, not with anger, but with something else, something quieter, something heavier, disappointment. Lucas didn't understand. Dad, why are you home so much? He asked. Daniel forced a smile. Just taking a break. From work? Yeah. Lucas nodded. That's cool. You can play with me more. Daniel's chest tightened. Yeah, he said softly. I can. But even when they played, Daniel wasn't really there. His mind was somewhere else, always thinking, always worrying. One evening, Emily sat across from him. We need to talk, she said. Daniel nodded. I've been thinking, she continued, about what you told me. He waited. You lied at work. Yes, and because of that, you lost your job. Yes, and now there could be more consequences. Daniel didn't answer because they both knew. Yes, he said finally. Emily looked at him. Daniel, have you ever lied to me? The question came quietly, but it hit harder than anything else. Daniel froze. His mind went blank. Because this question was different. This was not about work. This was about them, about trust, about everything. No, he said quickly. Too quickly. Emily's eyes didn't move. Are you sure? Daniel felt the pressure again. That familiar pressure. The same one from the office, from the meeting, from the phone call. Tell the truth, or protect yourself. He hesitated, just for a second, but that second was enough. Emily saw it, and something changed in her eyes. Not anger, not even sadness, but distance. You hesitated, she said softly. Daniel shook his head. No, you hesitated. The room was quiet again. I'm just asking a simple question, she continued. Have you ever lied to me? Daniel looked at her, really looked at her. The woman who had stood by him for years, the woman who trusted him, the woman who believed in him. And now, that trust was shaking because of him, because of one lie, or maybe more than one. I, his voice was weak. I don't think so. Emily looked down, then back at him. That's not the same as no. Daniel didn't respond because he didn't have an answer anymore. And in that moment, he realized something terrifying. The lie he told at work was not the only lie. It was just the one that got caught, the one that grew too big to hide. But there were others, small ones, quiet ones, forgotten ones, or maybe not forgotten at all. Emily stood up slowly. I need some time, she said. Then she walked away. Daniel didn't stop her because he knew this was no longer just about a job. This was about trust. And once trust is broken, it doesn't return easily. That night, Daniel sat alone in the living room. The lights were off. The house was silent, too silent. He looked around, at the walls, at the photos, at the life he had built. Everything was still there, but it didn't feel the same because something invisible was already breaking. And this time, he couldn't fix it with another lie. The house no longer felt like home. It was the same walls, the same furniture, the same quiet evenings. But something had changed. Something invisible, something fragile. Trust. Daniel noticed it in the small things. The way Emily no longer asked about his day. The way she no longer waited for him at dinner. The way her eyes moved away. Just a second too soon. Not anger, not shouting, just distance. And somehow, that hurt more. The investigation continued. Every few days, Daniel received another call, another email, another request. Please come in for further clarification. Please provide additional details. Please review this document. Each message felt like a weight, pressing down slowly, relentlessly. He tried to stay calm, tried to stay hopeful, but deep inside, he knew where this was going. One morning, he received an official letter. He stared at it for a long time before opening it. His hands were slightly shaking. Inside, a formal notice. Due to negligence, due to false confirmation, due to violation of company policy, his employment was officially terminated, effective immediately. And more than that, the company would pursue legal responsibility. Daniel stopped reading. The words blurred. Legal responsibility. That meant more than losing a job. That meant consequences he could not control. He sat down slowly. The room felt quiet again. Too quiet. I lost my job, he whispered. But now, it was worse. He had lost something else too, his future. That evening, he didn't tell Emily right away. He couldn't. He needed time. Just a little more time. To think, to breathe, to understand what was happening. Lucas was drawing again, on the floor, with colored pencils. Dad, look, he said. I drew our family. Daniel walked over slowly. There were 3 figures. A man, a woman, a child, all holding hands, all smiling. Do you like it? Lucas asked. Daniel nodded. It's beautiful. Lucas smiled proudly. You're the tallest, he said, because you're the strongest. Daniel felt something break inside him. Strong. That's what his son believed. And that's what he used to believe too. Dad? Yes? Are you okay? Daniel forced a smile. Of course. Another lie. Smaller this time, but still there. Later that night, Emily sat beside him. You've been quiet, she said. Daniel nodded. There's something I need to tell you. Emily didn't react. She just waited. The company finished the investigation. Her expression didn't change. And Daniel looked down. They fired me. Silence. And they might take legal action. This time, Emily moved. She sat up straight. Legal action? Daniel nodded slowly. They say I was responsible. Emily stared at him. For a long time. Are you? She asked. The question was simple, but it carried everything. Daniel closed his eyes. Yes. Emily looked away. Her hands were clenched tightly. How bad is it? I don't know yet. But it's serious? Yes? Another silence. Heavy. Uncomfortable. What are we going to do? She asked quietly. Daniel didn't have an answer. For the first time in years, he truly didn't know. Days turned into weeks. The situation became clearer, but not better. There were legal meetings, consultations, discussions. Words Daniel had never used before became part of his daily life. Liability, negligence, responsibility. Each word felt cold, sharp, final. Money became a problem too. Without a job, without stable income, things changed quickly. Bills, expenses, savings, everything had to be reconsidered. Emily started working extra hours. She didn't complain. She didn't blame him. But Daniel could see it. The tiredness in her eyes, the silence at dinner, the distance growing little by little. One evening, Daniel tried to talk. I'll find another job, he said. Emily nodded, but she didn't look convinced. I will, he repeated. I believe you, she said softly, but her voice didn't sound strong. And Daniel noticed, because belief is not just words. It's something you feel, and that feeling was fading. Lucas began to notice things too. Why is Mom always tired? He asked. Daniel hesitated. She's working hard. Why? Daniel paused. Because we need to. Lucas frowned. Did something happen? Daniel looked at him, at his small face, his curious eyes. The same question again. The same moment. Tell the truth. Or protect him. We're just going through a difficult time, Daniel said. Lucas nodded slowly. Then he asked something unexpected. Is it because of you? Daniel froze. The question was simple, innocent, but it cut deeper than anything else. Why would you say that? Daniel asked. Lucas shrugged. I heard Mom talking on the phone. Daniel's heart sank. She sounded sad. Silence. And she said your name. Daniel looked away. Because now, even his son was starting to see, starting to understand. Dad. Yes? Did you do something wrong? Daniel's chest tightened. He wanted to say no. He wanted to protect himself. He wanted to protect his image. But something stopped him. Maybe it was the truth. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe it was... exhaustion. Yes, he said quietly. Lucas didn't speak. I made a mistake. Lucas looked at him. But you always tell me not to lie, he said. Daniel closed his eyes. I know. And you lied? Daniel nodded. Yes. Lucas was quiet for a long time. Then he said something Daniel would never forget. That's not what a strong person does. The words were soft, but they hit harder than anything else because they were true. That night, Daniel couldn't sleep. He lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking, remembering, regretting. I checked everything. That sentence again, always that sentence. A few words, a few seconds, and now everything was different. He turned to the side. Emily was sleeping, or pretending to sleep. He couldn't tell anymore. He wanted to reach out, to say something, to fix everything, but he didn't know how. Because some things, once broken, cannot be fixed easily. The next morning, Daniel made a decision. He couldn't continue like this, waiting, hiding, regretting. He needed to face it, fully, honestly, for the first time. He called his lawyer. I want to cooperate, he said. Completely. There was a pause on the other end. Are you sure? The lawyer asked. Yes. This could make things harder for you. Daniel took a deep breath. I know. Then why? Daniel looked out the window. The sky was pale, quiet. Because I've already made it worse? By lying. Silence. Then the lawyer said softly, all right. And for the first time in weeks, Daniel felt something different. Not relief, not peace, but something close. Acceptance. And that evening, he sat with Emily. I'm going to tell them everything, he said. Emily looked at him. Everything? Yes. The truth? Yes. She studied his face, trying to understand, trying to see if this was real. Why now? She asked. Daniel didn't hesitate. Because I can't live like this anymore. Emily didn't speak immediately. Then she nodded, slowly. Okay. It wasn't forgiveness, it wasn't trust, but it was something. A small step, a quiet beginning. But Daniel didn't know yet that telling the truth would not save him, not completely, because some consequences do not disappear, even when the truth finally arrives. Telling the truth did not feel like freedom. It felt like standing in the rain, without shelter, without protection, just waiting for what would come next. Daniel sat across from the lawyer again. This time, there were no excuses, no careful words, no hesitation. I'll tell them everything, he said. And he did. He spoke slowly, clearly, honestly, about the reports, about the pressure, about the day he didn't check, about the moment he chose to lie. I was afraid, he said. The room was quiet. But that doesn't change what I did. The lawyer nodded. Do you understand the consequences? Daniel didn't look away. Yes. But understanding something and facing it were not the same. The weeks that followed were the hardest of his life, not because of the meetings, not because of the legal process, but because of the waiting. Waiting for a decision, waiting for a result, waiting for something he could not control. At home, things became quieter, not peaceful, just empty. Emily spoke when necessary, about bills, about Lucas, about daily life, but nothing more. No laughter, no warmth, no connection. They were living in the same house, but not in the same world. Daniel tried. Small things, making breakfast, cleaning the house, helping Lucas with homework. But everything felt distant, like he was trying to fix something that was already broken. One evening, Lucas sat beside him. Dad? Yes? Are you still in trouble? Daniel paused. Yes. Lucas nodded slowly. Will it go away? Daniel looked at him. Such a simple question, such a difficult answer. I don't know, he said honestly. Lucas looked down, then asked, Are you scared? Daniel didn't expect that, but he didn't lie. Yes. Lucas was quiet. Then he said something soft. I'm scared too. Daniel's chest tightened. Why? Lucas shrugged. Because things feel different. Different. Such a small word, but it carried everything. I know, Daniel said. I'm sorry. Lucas didn't respond. He just leaned slightly closer, not a hug, not comfort, but not distance either. Something in between. Days later, the final meeting arrived. Daniel sat in the same room, the same table, the same people. But this time, there was no tension, only certainty. The decision had already been made. Mr. Carter, the man began, after reviewing all evidence and your statement, Daniel listened, carefully, quietly. We acknowledge your cooperation. A small pause, but due to the seriousness of the violation, Daniel already knew. You are held legally responsible for the damages caused. The words landed slowly, heavy, final. There will be financial penalties. Daniel nodded. He expected that. And restrictions on future employment in similar roles. That one hurt more, because it wasn't just about the past, it was about the future, closing, narrowing, changing. This concludes the case. That was it. No dramatic ending, no emotional moment, just finished. Daniel walked out of the building again. The same path, the same street. But this time, he felt lighter. Not because things were better, but because it was over. No more waiting, only consequences. And that night, he told Emily everything, the penalties, the restrictions, the outcome. She listened quietly, no interruption, no reaction, until he finished. Then she asked, Can we manage it? Daniel nodded slowly. Yes. It will be difficult, but yes. Emily looked down, thinking, calculating, accepting. Okay, she said, just one word. But it meant, we will continue. Days turned into weeks again. But this time, there was no investigation, no meetings, no uncertainty, only reality. Daniel started looking for work, but it wasn't easy. Every application felt heavy. Every interview felt uncomfortable, because he knew, and sometimes they knew too. Why did you leave your last job? That question again, always that question. And this time, he didn't lie. I made a serious mistake, he said. I took responsibility for something I didn't properly check, and I lied about it. Some people nodded politely. Some ended the interview quickly. Some never called back. But Daniel kept going, because now there was no other choice. At home, something began to shift, slowly, very slowly. Emily started speaking more, not like before, but more than silence. Small conversations, simple questions. How was your day? Did you find anything? Daniel answered honestly, always honestly, even when it was difficult, even when it made him look weak. One evening, Emily sat across from him again. You've changed, she said. Daniel looked at her. I had to. Emily studied his face. You don't hide things anymore. Daniel shook his head. No. Why? He thought for a moment, then said, Because hiding them cost me everything. Emily didn't respond immediately, but something in her expression softened. Just a little. Lucas noticed too. Dad, you're different, he said one day. Daniel smiled slightly. Different how? Lucas thought. You don't say everything is fine anymore. Daniel let out a small breath. That's true. Lucas nodded. That's better. Better. Such a simple word. But it meant progress. One night, Daniel stood by the window again, just like before, watching the sky change from dark to light. It had been a long time since he allowed himself to feel this moment. Quiet, still, honest. He thought about everything: the lie, the fear, the loss, the job, the trust, the life he almost destroyed, all because of one moment, one choice, one sentence. I checked everything. He closed his eyes, then opened them again, because now he understood something. The lie didn't just take things away, it showed him something too: who he was, who he became, and who he needed to be if he wanted to rebuild. Because losing everything was not the end, not yet, but rebuilding would be harder than losing. And this time, there would be no shortcuts, no lies, no easy escape, only truth. And the slow, difficult path forward, rebuilding a life, does not happen in one day. It does not happen in 1 week or 1 month. It happens slowly, quietly, almost invisibly. And sometimes it feels like nothing is changing at all. Daniel learned that the hard way. Every morning, he still woke up early, but now there was no office to go to, no schedule waiting for him, just silence. At first, that silence felt heavy, like failure, like a reminder of everything he lost. But over time, it became something else: a space, a place where he could think, honestly. For the first time in years, he stopped rushing, stopped pretending, stopped hiding. And in that quiet space, he began to see things clearly, not just the mistake he made, but the pattern behind it: the small lies, the excuses, the moments he chose comfort over truth. I didn't check. I didn't want to disappoint. I didn't want to lose. All those thoughts had led him to one sentence: I checked everything. And that sentence had cost him everything. One afternoon, Daniel sat at the kitchen table, a notebook in front of him, blank pages. He stared at it for a long time. Then he wrote one question: who do I want to become? The words looked simple, but the answer was not. He thought about his son, Lucas, about that sentence. That's not what a strong person does. Daniel closed his eyes, because that moment still hurt, but it also guided him. He picked up the pen again, and this time, he wrote slowly: I want to become someone who tells the truth, even when it's difficult. He paused, then added, especially when it's difficult. That became his rule. Not a big promise, not a perfect plan, just a simple rule. But he followed it. Every day, when he spoke to Emily, he told the truth, even when it was uncomfortable. I'm scared. I don't know what to do. I feel like I failed. At first, the words felt heavy, but slowly, they became easier. And something else changed too. Emily started to listen. Not just hear him, but really listen. One evening, she sat beside him again. You've been honest, she said. Daniel nodded. I'm trying. Emily looked at him. Why now? He didn't hesitate. Because I don't want to lose anything else. Emily was quiet. Then she asked something unexpected. Why didn't you do this before? Daniel looked down. Because he knew the answer. I thought being honest would make me lose everything. Emily nodded slowly. And now? Daniel looked at her. I know that lying does. Silence. But this time, it wasn't uncomfortable. It was understanding. That was the first moment. Something real began to return, not trust, not completely, but something close. A small bridge being built again. Lucas noticed too. Dad, you don't lie anymore, he said one day. Daniel smiled slightly. I'm trying not to. Lucas nodded. That's good. Then he added, because I want to be like you. Daniel felt a deep weight in his chest, not pain this time, but responsibility. Because now, being honest was not just for him. It was for his son. Weeks passed, then months. Daniel found a job, not the same kind, not the same level, not the same pay, but it was honest work, and that mattered more now. He worked hard, quietly, carefully, and every time he signed something, checked something, confirmed something, he took his time, no rushing, no assumptions, no lies, because he remembered, always remembered. I checked everything. That sentence had become a lesson, one he would never forget. At home, life slowly softened. Emily smiled more, not like before, but real smiles. Small, genuine. Lucas laughed again, loudly. The house felt warmer, not perfect, but alive. One evening, they sat together at dinner. Something simple: rice, vegetables, soup, nothing special. But it felt important because they were together, really together. Lucas looked at his father. Dad? Yes? Are you still scared? Daniel thought for a moment, then answered honestly. Sometimes. Lucas nodded. That's okay. Daniel smiled. Yeah, I think it is. Then Lucas asked, but are you strong now? Daniel paused, because strength did not mean the same thing anymore. He looked at his son, then said quietly, I'm trying to be. Lucas smiled. That's enough. And somehow, that simple sentence felt like forgiveness. Later that night, Daniel stood by the window again. The sky was dark, but peaceful. He took a deep breath, and for the first time in a long time, he felt calm. Not because everything was fixed, not because life was perfect, but because he was no longer hiding. He had lost many things: his job, his reputation, his certainty. But he had gained something too, something quiet, something strong: the truth and the courage to live with it. He thought back to that day, that moment, that choice, the lie. If he could go back, would he change it? Yes, without hesitation. But he couldn't. No one can. So instead, he chose something else: to learn, to grow, to become better. Because the truth is, one lie can take everything, but the truth can slowly bring something back. Not the same life, not the same past, but a new beginning. And sometimes that is enough. Thank you for listening to this story. If this story made you think, if it reminded you of something in your own life, take a moment. Ask yourself, is there something you are hiding? Is there something you are afraid to face? Because maybe the truth is not what you should fear. Maybe it is the only thing that can set you free. If you want to improve your English and listen to more slow, meaningful stories like this, stay with us and continue this journey, one story at a time. Yes, I confirmed everything. This time, the lie felt heavier, like something breaking inside him. The man across the table nodded slowly. Then he opened a folder. Mr. Carter, he said, we have evidence that the reports were never completed. Daniel's world stopped. We also have records showing that you approved them anyway. No one spoke, no one moved. Daniel felt cold, very cold. He tried to speak. I think there must be a mistake. There is no mistake, the man said calmly. And in that moment, Daniel understood something. The lie he told was no longer small. It had grown. It had waited. And now, it was here, waiting for him, waiting to take everything. And this time, there was no easy way out.